Good evening. We're going to look at a bad boy from the Bible, but it won't be Simon necessarily. Numbers chapter 22 is where you will need to be with your Bibles to follow along there. Tonight we'll be discussing Balaam. I always have problems spelling, and for a long time I did not like Balaam because I couldn't spell his name right. It seemed to me that his counterpart, King Balak, would have two A's, but that's not the way it works. In Numbers, we start in the middle of a context, but it's not built for us. Israel is traveling, the nation has not yet received the kingdom, or rather the promised land of God, and they're itching for it, and they go up east of, I want to say the Red Sea, but it's not the Red Sea, the Jordan River, and they conquer lands north and east of Galilee, the Jordan River. Making their way back south is where we are at this time, and there is a king who needs to figure out what he's going to do about them before they arrive in his lands. The king is Balak, and the land is just northeast of Jericho. It would be, as we discussed a week or two ago, Bethany beyond the Jordan. It's probably in the same area, if not the exact same spot. It is listed as the Plains of Moab. Plains of Moab or the Plains of Midian? Jeremy, I found your map. Found you two maps. So there's that one. And the other one is that the references to Bashan. Bashan is a region. Again, it's that same area there from the north coming down on the east side of the Jordan River. And Balak has an idea. He wants to contact a priest of God, or a prophet of God rather, because what he says is true. And I think that we're going to find a new respect, or at least a new way that we might think of Balak, or Balak, or however you want to say his name. In the 4th and 5th verse of Numbers 22, and Moab said to the elders of Midian, so these two areas are having a discussion concerning the Israelites, "This horde will lick up all that is around us as the ox licks up the grass of the field." So Balak, the son of Zippor, who was the king of Moab at that time, sent messengers to Balaam, son of Beor, at Pethor, which is near the river, in the land of the people of Ammon, to call him, saying, "Behold, a people has come out of Egypt. They cover the face of the earth, and they are dwelling opposite me." Now, in the future, we discussed Rahab a couple of months ago. That's the future for this period of time. And we know what she says about the people of Jericho. We know who you are. We've been following your exploits for 40 years since you destroyed the Egyptian army. And here, before Rahab gets her chance to say those things, we find other kingdoms saying the same thing. Look how God's people are classified, though, right? This we would like to hope for them to be us, that they lick up the grass like an ox. And we all know good and well it didn't have anything to do with their military prowess whatsoever. It was God who did the fighting for them. That'll be kind of routine through these discussions, or the discussion of Balaam and Balak. Now, there's two things we should clarify before we move it very much further. The first one is the river. The river is labeled as such because there was only one great big one like it, and that would be the river Euphrates. If you have a footnote, your Bible may say that at the bottom, that it's meant to be, or that the discussion is talking about the river Euphrates. The second one is the people of Ammon, and I think this mostly translates to my relatives or my kin. People who are like them. remembering that Abraham came from that area as well. All right, so Balak sends to Balaam and says, I want you to curse the Israelites for me. And Balaam welcomes in those who have come to him. He lets them stay overnight. He says, God will tell me, Yahweh will tell me what to do about this. And the next morning he says, guys, I can't speak on this. Yahweh will not allow me to go and to say these kinds of things against the Israelites. Now, one of the things that were brought, and I'm just tracking this because it matters to what Damon read just a moment ago. One of the things that is sent are the fees for divination. Divination, magic, it's a discussion that we had in our Sunday morning class not too terribly long ago, and whether we want to believe in it or not, you can't help but understand and accept that the old world did believe in magic, and that here, because Balak is wanting Balaam to perform some magic, he sends the price so that that might be done. Balak recognized how powerful the God is that Balaam serves. Now, Balak doesn't know as much about the Israelites, but he's going to deal with Balaam. There's no reason that we should think that Balaam is an Israelite or a son of Abraham at all, but here he is a prophet. We know of a couple of those. We have Noah, who is able to speak because he was a good man and God chose for him to preach for all of the years it took him to build the ark. Most unsuccessful preacher in history. And I'm not taking any joy or gloating in that, but as awesome as we think of Noah. How about Melchizedek, who is a prophet not that has no beginning or end, because there is nothing saved about Melchizedek. You can't say that about Balaam, because by the end of the discussion, or that's where we will end, we will learn of his death as it is written. But even though Balak and Balaam are not Israelites or children of Abraham, they're discussing the children of Abraham. And Balaam wants to know, am I allowed to have God curse these people for me? Now, if we were in our King's discussion like we are on Sunday mornings at the moment, we would say, man, that king did exactly what he was supposed to. He went and he found a prophet of God and he asked God Almighty about these people. He did not entrust himself. He sure didn't do what we talked about Hezekiah doing this morning. In fact, Balak actually quotes what God says to Abraham, although I don't think he knows these things. He's deduced that in Genesis 12, verse 3, when Abraham is called, it starts at Genesis 12, verse 1, one of the promises that God gives him is, whoever blesses you, I will bless, and whoever curses you, I will curse. Well, now we're getting to where the mustard meets the mayonnaise. Here you have a prophet. It's a prophet of God who is calling out or asking, can I call out to God, will you condemn these Israelites? Balaam refuses to even go back to Balak on round one. Jump down to verse 15. Once again, Balak sent princes more in number and more honorable than these. And they came to Balaam and said to him, thus says Balak, son of Zippor, let nothing hinder you from coming to me, for I will surely do you great honor, and whatever you say to me, I will do. Come, curse this people for me. In verse 16, it's not an idle set of words. It's not a parlance that this is how you start conversations. Balak isn't giving Balaam a whole lot of choice. He says, you will come here. The effect would be similar to, here's your subpoena. You've been served. You will show up before the king. Not only will you show up before the king, but you will also curse these people. Now, you might want to meet a king. It's kind of impressive. It's supposed to be. Whenever you have someone come in who who is a very important person. If they're going to meet the king, everybody's dressed nice and the perfume flows because they don't have deodorant. And the best things are served, and Balaam gets to meet the king. The problem is he can't do what the king wants. And that takes on a whole different, now meeting the king takes on a whole different sound. I know what he's going to ask me, and I know what I've got to say. Again, the fees of divination are discussed in this, although not directly, but indirectly, that this is still going to be the way that he will be paid for his services. Verse 18, but Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the command of the Lord God, of the Lord my God, to do less or more. So you too, please stay here tonight, that I may know what more the Lord will say to me. And God came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men have come to call you, rise, go with them, but only do what I tell you. There's a lot going on here, and there's some things that I may be confusing you on here. When I copy and paste over from the location where I'm getting it from, the website, Bible Gateway, it takes out the formatting. Where you see the words here, the Lord, they should be all capitals. These are not just someone calling on a person of station. This is the tetragrammaton. It's the 4 letters that God has told them, this is my name, this is what you will call me. So they're not having a discussion in abstract. They're not having a dance around it kind of conversation. They're using the full name of God, and they're using it in context where it is acceptable and it's appropriate. And Balaam is saying, I'll go back and check, but I've already been told no. If you've already been told no, why are you asking? Now, we didn't have cell phones. It was great. And that you could go and you could ask Mom, hey, can I do this? And Mom says, no. And why does Mom say no? Because she's the one that keeps up with the clothing, and she knows that you haven't done yours, and that your room is a mess, and that your grades are not that great, and maybe that's just my mom. Then you go ask Dad. We'll go ask Dad next. Because we want a better answer. We want a different answer. Why is Balaam going back to God? God's already told him. That should be good enough for him. Also, the way that Balaam is going back to God is not something on faith. It's not that he doesn't trust what God has told him the first time. No, you can't do that. It's that he's asking again, has anything changed in the last month and a half that it took these people to go back and report and they come back to me again? Has anything changed? One of the things that we have to keep in mind as we are here is that while Balak is not the king of Israel, and while Balaam is not an Israelite, they're talking about him, and that's God's people. Those are God's children. And if someone were to come to you who's been a good friend to you your whole life maybe, has been a real good friend, and they came up and they said, you know what, would you mind too much if I punched your kid in the nose? It's Tuesday and, maybe they deserve it. But I think they're going to punch me in the nose, so is this what we can do? We're not talking about nothing. They're asking God to go back on his word, to go back on his commitment, on his promise. And here, I think we're supposed to be drawn to I think we're supposed to be drawn to Balaam asking God to pull back, to go back on what he has promised, because that's how how it's penned that Balak says it. Whoever blesses you, I will bless. Whoever curses you, I will curse. I want you to keep that in mind. Now, this other guy is wanting to curse the people of God. Well, as those who follow God, shouldn't we be very interested in how God approaches the whole situation? Balak's insistent that Balaam go, and even if he can't curse the people of Israel, make sure you don't say anything positive. In fact, can we get you to call on your God and be Michael Buffer, or which is the other Buffer guy, right before the heavyweight bout comes about, and say, all right, now, this is going to be a fair and equal fight. Nobody's calling on any gods. This is going to be soldier versus soldier. We're going to meet right here on the plains of Megiddo. We're going to do it on Thursday at sunup. Ready? Go. Well, you know what? It's not that there's not wisdom in that. If God's on the side against you, you're not going to win. But if you could somehow neutralize him, if you could take him out of the fight altogether, well, that would be a better way to approach the fight. Balaam goes, but he offers a disclaimer. He says in verse 18, I cannot change what God says. When Yahweh tells me what to say, that I have to say that. Now, are you sure you want to put your quarter in and roll the machine to find out what comes out? Because I'm not going to be able to go backwards with this. Finally, he sent him to them, saying, they will respect my son. With Numbers 22:15 brings up these side points, and I've been trying to keep track of them in this text because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of this sounds like that. And I wound up coming up with 5 for this section of text. And this is the 6 of them, because there's F, and this would be point F. That even whenever Balak sends more people back, it sounds like a parable that Jesus gives. That the owner of the vineyard gets the vineyard going and goes away, and he sends back and says, it's harvest time, you need to send me my money. And he sends the first person, and they beat him up, and they kick him out of the vineyard, and so he goes away. And then they do this a couple of more times, and then the vineyard owner says, I'll send my son, surely they'll respect him. And they kill his son. And we're obviously supposed to think of Jesus in that parable, that he would be the one of great honor that is sent. That he is the one who bridges between God and man. And here in Numbers 22:15, Balak is saying, I need you to build that bridge. From heaven to earth, I need this bridge to be built. Well, he's not going to get it. We know that. That's the end of the story before we get there. However, we need to see it. We don't know that yet. And whenever we lay our head on our pillow at night, we need to know that God is going to answer us. We need to know that we are his covenant people, and that he takes that covenant very seriously. He always has. So, Balaam has to go with the men who have been sent to him. I think it's because he needs to go up there and say no. I think it's because if Balaam were to answer the people who woke up in his house that morning, having come the second time, he would have to say, my God is not willing to even listen to you. And yeah, maybe your master has called on my God when he needed him and been honest. And I think we're going to see some of that as we keep going. But here, if you are Balak and you send away and say, bring me the power of God, God Almighty, the true living God. And the answer that's returned to you is, nah, he don't want to talk to you. And why is that? Because he likes these other people better. You see how we avoid all of that if Balaam gets sent down the road just to answer the question in person? And so I speculate that that's why that is done, and in that order. Balaam saddles his donkey. He gets on the donkey. He gets going down the road, and the donkey turns aside one time because there's an angel standing in the road with a flaming, with a sword of flaming fire. We've seen one of those whenever God kicked Adam and Eve out of Eden. We'll see it again whenever David numbers the people. This is not one to be played with. 3 times the animal turns. And the 3rd time it just lays down underneath Balaam. And Balaam is just giving him what for. And the donkey says, "Why are you doing that? I've never been mean to you. I've always done what you told me to. I'm trying to make sure you don't see that." The Lord opens the eyes of Balaam. Balaam gets to see the angel. And even the angel's, "Dude, what are you beating your animal for?" It's a really great moment. I've got a really great story about it, but too many people know too many people. If you want to hear it later, I'll tell you out of context. It's a really great story. And since I can't tell that story, I brought you 5 other things instead. In 2022, an artist made a quilt depicting the animal bowing to the angel with Balaam on its back. In 1859, a man named John Linnell painted it this way. By the way, just to be honest, I had to have this one touched up by AI because it wouldn't look that great on these monitors. A man named Jaeger in 1836 gives the one with the most detail. This one looks like it does in my head. Some painter named Rembrandt did it in 1626. And the oldest one that Wikipedia had available was from the Nuremberg Chronicle, 1493. And I think this is funny because I'm pretty sure Balaam's going to get the sword before the club gets the angel. The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out to oppose you because your way is perverse to me." There's not that many times in the Bible where the word perverse is used. And as our morning preacher pointed out, the world is not going to let you appreciate just how derogatory the word perversion is. And that now everything is scientifically backed and fact-checked, and you're not allowed to point out that there are things that make bad people. There are things that make sick people, and there are things that make wounded people. They do have labels, and they all need Jesus. Perhaps the angel being hidden allows us to look into what we cannot see, into what's really going on behind the veil. If you take an attitude check at this point in the story, what is Balaam's attitude, and what is his agenda? All Balaam has discussed is money so far. Want to make sure that paycheck is on the table, and I'm not allowed to go there. God doesn't want me to go there, but God, maybe I need to go lay eyes on it myself. Whatever is going on in Balaam's head and or heart, it is perverse to the way of the Lord. The angel says to Balaam, "Go with the men, but only speak the word that I tell you." So Balaam went on with the princes of Balak. 2 things here. Number 1, word doesn't mean one individual between the spaces word. It is a paragraph, is the way that we would typically call it. The 10 Commandments, while they are not individual words, each one of those is considered a word. That in, I think it's the original Hebrew, the Orthodox Jews that would read that call it the 10 words of God. Even though we know that those are full sentences, I'm pointing out to you this is a different use for a word that we're more familiar with. So that's slightly different there. The second is that it's made clear here for the second time, you only do what I tell you to do. Now, as I read this one and as I started working on trying to figure out how to put it in here so that we would understand it, I got to go back to my mama again. It's definitely not me. We're going in the grocery store, and this is how you act. Don't make me tell you again. But here's you only do what I tell you you can do. You only touch what I tell you you can touch. And then mama goes and picks up all the oranges and squeezes them. It's not fair. And Balaam is told time and time again by God, you're in a really precarious location. If you step one way the wrong way, you're gone. And if you step one way back the right way, you're still not in a great place. You only do what you're told to do. I wonder here why God relented. He sent the angel. The angel has stopped the donkey. The donkey got tired of getting beat, so it just laid down. Why doesn't God go ahead and take out Balaam? And I've been portraying him very negatively so far. But let's remember, he's a priest, he's a prophet rather, of God. That in the past, according to Balak's testimony, Balaam has offered real truth. He's given real decisions. They have gone to God together, is what it seems like from reading the text. As far as that's why Balaam was called in the first place. Why does God let him stay? It's because I'm Balaam too. And that I might get it right. And it may be wonderful sometimes. But there are times when I get it wrong. And there are times when I'm 1 footfall away from falling off the cliff. And that even here, while God is continuously telling Balaam every time he comes back to God, you need to be careful. Don't do extra. Don't say what I didn't tell you to say. Don't do what I didn't tell you to do. And that he's done that for us time and time again. We come in here and we repeat it 3 times a week. And we still walk on that precarious line sometimes. And we need time to come back. We need time to be right. Holding firmly to God and exploiting God for personal gain are two different things. And Balaam's about to cause a big problem for himself. Balak says to Balaam when Balaam finally gets there, did I not send to you to call you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to honor you? There's the paycheck again. Did you catch it? Am I not able to honor you? He's promised him money. He's promised him more money. He sent prettier people. And Balak's response is, behold, I have come to you. Tell me that kid's not 17 years old. I have come to you. Have I now any power of my own to speak anything? The word that God puts in my mouth, that I must speak. And now they're going to go. They're going to go out and they're going to see God's people. What about the prophecy? Look, I'm going to pay you well. I want you to go to that God that you're familiar with. You're comfortable with him. You'll only go to him. I'm cool with that. But I need you to make that God understand. I need you to make your God listen, to reason. And the reason is, I don't want to be destroyed by these people that are so numerous. That's why I called for you in the first place. Make your God listen. I get that from the 3 times of the places that they're fixing to go to. And yes, I overstated it purposefully. If you pay enough money, your prophet will understand. He'll have the authority to tell God what he likes. We have the warning for that in the New Testament. And I believe Foley read it for us this morning, that in later times people would have itching ears. We want to hear it the way you say it. And we don't want you to tell us that we've done wrong. And we don't want you to wag your finger at anything but those pet sins that we all don't condone and that will run you out on a rail because you are involved in them. Make your God understand. The reason that we get to that is because everything else works in that fashion. Money fixes everything. It is sin fuel. That wasn't exactly the translation, and I do know that Foley quoted from that this morning, that we cannot serve God and money or mammon. You'll love one and hate the other, or you'll hate one and love the other. But money fixes everything on this planet. With enough money, you can do any human thing. You can get a submarine and take it to the bottom of the ocean. Yet that which is righteous could not be bought or sold if you promised the earth and paid with the moon. What God says is true, and it doesn't matter if we like it or not. What God says is right, doesn't matter if we like it or not. And if God says we can't do something, it doesn't matter if we like it or not. So, now we get into sacrifices. Balak starts offering sacrifices. He goes by himself. And I'll be honest with y'all, my paper and my screen are so far apart, I don't even know how to get back there yet. So I'm going to go with what y'all see. Balak goes off and he offers a sacrifice. Now, of other religious, of other places to worship and gods to serve in the area, you would first find Ashtaroth. Ashtaroth is a fertility goddess. Any way you can make that happen, which is why she's so popular. Typically, the sacrifice to Ashtaroth would be cakes, libations, including distilled or just fermented, and incense. If you wanted to sacrifice to Baal, you would add an animal sacrifice of some kind of livestock, and the more the merrier and the more the better. And there are certain places where Baal would also accept child sacrifices, although typically child sacrifices are given to a different god. So it doesn't have to be Yahweh that Balak is offering his sacrifices to. But we're not told who it's to. Balak offers sacrifices and then gets to work trying to get God's prophet to curse God's children and starts to show him the children of Israel. Verses 39 to 41 of Numbers 22. Then Balaam went with Balak, and they came to Kizriath Huzoth, and Balak sacrificed oxen and sheep, and sent for Balaam and for the princes who were with him. And in the morning Balak took Balaam and brought him to Baalamoth Baal, and from there he saw a fraction of the people. This is going to happen 3 times. There's going to be this location, there's going to be that location, there's going to be another location where Balaam is supposed to look at what's there and Balak's going to tell him what to do. Does that sound familiar to you? Go to Matthew chapter, but later. Go to Matthew chapter 4. And after Jesus is baptized, the Spirit takes him out into the wilderness and says, and the devil tempts him. Here, because of this. And Jesus says no. And here's a second place, and here's a third. We have that forecast for us here, and the same thing happens. Now, at each location, what Balaam does is he tells Balak and those who are attendants with him, build an altar. When you get the altar built, sacrifice on that altar. And then I'm going to come out here and I'm going to talk to God. You need to stay by that altar. Okay, those are really great things. We already know what those things are for, right? Sacrifice, blood shields us from the sin, at least for a period of time. So if the prophet of God is going to talk to God and I'm not that guy, I need some blood around here somewhere to shield me from God. This happens at the first place, the second place, and the third place. If you're looking in your Bible, it's going to be the 23rd and 24th chapter that we're in, and each one of these goes through. We're not going to read the oracles or the prophecies that Balaam gives, but he gives 3, and then you get a 4th as a bonus. 3 of them go just like I've described. The 4th one is the bonus. Numbers chapter 24, thank you. Verses 1 through 5. When Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel. Now this is the end of the 3rd, and it will be the beginning of the 4th. He did not go as at other times to look for omens, but set his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam lifted up his eyes and saw Israel camping tribe by tribe. And the Spirit of God came upon him, and he took up his discourse and said, the oracle of Balaam, son of Beor, the oracle of the man whose eye is opened, the oracle of him who hears the words of God, who sees the vision of the Almighty, falling down with his eyes uncovered. How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your encampments, O Israel. This is exactly the opposite thing that Balak was having Balaam come to do. It is exactly opposite. And that now 4 times he's blessed them. One of them he didn't even pay for. It was just a spontaneous blessing. And what God had to say about Israel is it's a good thing that you are here. What you're going to do, Balak worries about, and he should, because God is on your side. Continuing into the 25th chapter, we find out why that's such a big deal. While Israel lived at Shittim, the people began to whore with the daughters of Moab. These invited the people to the sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. Israel yoked herself with Baal at Peor, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. Knowing what God expects can be exploited by Satan. It was the first sin. Satan knew what Adam and Eve were supposed to do, what they're not supposed to do. That's exactly how Satan tempts. Now, what's going on with the children of Israel? What I've discussed with you tonight so far probably took months to go through, right? They have to leave where they are east of Jericho. They have to travel I didn't have this map for you because there's not a really great spot where they think that Balaam was living. You can't nail that city down. But it's somewhere on the Euphrates River. It may be due north. It may be on the other side of the Fertile Crescent. Either way, it's going to take some time to do that travel. They're going to have to make that trip twice. And then Balaam and Balak are going to go on an excursion for a while. The whole time that that's going on, and we didn't talk about the children of God. The children of God are sitting down at Shittim. And now we get to see something happen that isn't in your scripture. It doesn't say in this specific spot that Balaam really wanted that money. And what he told Balak to do is he goes, look, I can't get God to say what you want him to say, but I know how to get those people cursed. You just send some women to them. You just dangle some sin in front of them and they'll latch onto it, and then God has no choice but to disdain them. And that's what we see happening. And at the same time that we see that happening, what we have to look back on is that the people of Israel, who are the covenant people of God, who are doing everything wrong, are being blessed by God because of that covenant. And the people who might have been doing it right with Balaam and Balak, they cannot win the day because they're not in covenant relationship with God. Doesn't matter how good we want to be if we're not attending to our covenant with God. It means everything. Okay, a couple of really good points. We're out of here in 5 minutes. Number one, like Jonah, everybody decides it's Ask Balaam a Question Day. Everyone in the story that's given a name or a prominent thought, everybody asks Balaam a question. In 22, as these go down here, God asks the question in 22:9. The envoys or the princes of Moab and Midian in 22:5, they've come to call and ask questions. The donkey asks 2 questions, verse 28 and 30. The angel asks a question in 32, and Balak asks several questions, one of them being, didn't I call you earlier? Even when traps are set, God watches out for his own people. Even when his people are mired in sin, God watches out for his own people. Even if you think there is no way he'll ever forgive me, God watches out for his people. If you're thinking your relationship with God is on your own terms, remember, Balak did too, and he may have been the more righteous, but he wasn't the one in covenant relationship with God. If you profit from deceit and lies, spend it well. What appears to be profit is only a loan, and those who understand the interest rate know how such words cannot be afforded. If you think you can be a believer without following the biblical prescription, remember Balak did too. And if you're a believer who did not seek glory for God, as the angel said, your way is perverse to me. Balaam is mentioned a couple of times in the New Testament. One of them that I wanted to sneak in was in 2 Peter, and I believe it's 2 Peter chapter 2. That's a really great one where it discusses exactly that. Balaam tells Balak, get him to sin. And that's Balaam's downfall. Starting in Revelation chapter 2, verses 13 and 14, and then over in Numbers 31. I know where you dwell, where Satan's throne room is, yet hold fast to my name, and you did not deny my faith, even in the days of Antipas, my faithful witness, who was killed among you as where Satan dwells. But I have a few things against you. You have some there who hold to the teachings of Balaam, who taught Balak to put a stumbling block before the sons of Israel, so that they might eat food sacrificed to idols and practice sexual immorality. Numbers 31. This is far past where our discussion has been so far. But when they come back through the land, these are the instructions for the children of Israel's military campaign. In verses 8 and 16, they killed the kings of Midian with the rest of their slain, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, 5 kings of Midian. And they also killed Balaam, the son of Beor, with the sword. Verse 16, behold, these, on Balaam's advice, caused the people of Israel to act treacherously against the Lord in the incident of Peor, and so the plague came among the congregation of Israel. Temptation is real. We really do fall for it. Sometimes it's an individual gunning for us, and sometimes it's just the sin that we want to do so much. Discussing that second chapter of Revelation, Balaam, who taught Balak. Balaam's advised Balak how to entice Israel to sin. The chiefly condemned characteristic of Pergamum is false teaching, which stands diametrically opposed to the faithful witnessing of which they heretofore are praised. As a prophet of Yahweh, Balaam continually blesses the children of Israel, contrary to the desires of his patron Balak. Yet Balaam is constrained by the promise made to Abraham in Genesis 12:3. The plague Balak sought was possible only because individuals turned from God, breaking faith with him. I got one more minute. It's only possible because they got up and sinned. That's Romans chapter 8, is it not? That there is nothing on this earth that could possibly take us away from the Master's hand unless we get up and walk out. And that if we are going to get up and walk out, we have nothing positive to look forward to. But if we're holding on as good as we can, and sometimes, that isn't so great, that God knows the covenant that He's made with us. He knows the promises that He said that He will keep towards us. And that's awesome. Why is Balaam a bad boy from the Bible? Because he had to get that money somehow. And that while he may have been a wonderful, faithful, terrific prophet for God, of which we don't know anything else, he decided instead he had to have something besides just the assurances of God. Let's pay careful attention to ourselves and where we receive our advice from.